All right, first up, the stages of moral development. Are we making decisions based on principle or just reacting to rewards and punishments? In this segment, we'll break down Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development, exploring how children, teens, and adults process morality differently. Do adults truly act out of experience, or are we all just conditioned by society's expectations? And if we are, is real morality even possible? Let's dive in. So this is a big heavy topic. I mean, this involves and encompasses like so many levels. There's levels to
Yes,
this topic, right?
yes, definitely levels,
Literally.
literally levels, right? And the reason why this one stuck out to me is because personally, I've always asked the question, how do humans develop a sense of right and wrong, which is morality?
Hmm.
Like how do we do that? Because we know that to some people, action A is right, but then to the next person, action A is wrong.
Hmm.
But it's like, how did these two individuals get to their stance
Yeah.
on that topic? And from my just personal research, eventually just being in digital streets, I came to realize that that word I was looking for, that topic I was looking for, was called moral reasoning.
Yeah. Which is subjective. What I'm coming to find out, because you could have a person that has the same moral compass or whatever you want to call it, but under certain circumstances,
Yep.
all that goes out the window.
Yeah. So it's definitely a fluid situation
Yeah.
but here's what I've also learned as well is that it is fluid, but how fluid you can be, it is based upon the level of your social, well, the level of development of your cultural values,
Hmm.
your socialization, as well as your cognitive development.
Mm.
So, for example, in this specific framework, he has 6 levels.
Yeah.
So, what I'm realizing though is that if a person only got to level 2, then they only can make, well, their moral reasoning and judgment are just going to flow between level 1 and level 2.
Right.
But if someone gets up to level 4, then their moral reasoning and judgment is flowing from 1 to 4.
Wonderful. Right.
So that's what
So
makes it
so
fluid.
so that makes them more, um I would say, more aware.
Yeah, that was my next leap in thought, was like, okay, well, the people, that's most likely why there is a higher expectation for people who do reach higher levels of moral reasoning, because you definitely understand what's happening
Right.
in regards to any situation or circumstance higher than, I mean, you have a higher level of understanding of what's happening and how this other person is doing what they're doing, because you're more, let's just say, if you've gotten level 4 but you're
Hmm.
interacting with a person that's gotten only to level 2, then like, yeah, you're gonna be viewed as, well, y'all gonna be bumping heads.
Hmm.
But then now I understand, like, yeah, the person with the higher level of moral reasoning, you are the one that is expected to take the quote unquote high road, or to be the bigger person, because the person that's on level 2, they on level 2,
And they can't
and
go
they
no
can't go
further.
no further than level 2.
They can't
So
even
all you,
comprehend.
so all you really will be doing as that higher developed individual, you are making yourself look like a fool, because you because again, you can't operate on your higher levels of moral reasoning and judgment with a person who's only at level 2, because they only at level
They only
2.
got two. They don't
You
have.
got to come down to their level.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know y'all wondering, like, what are they talking about? Who is this Lawrence Kohlberg and all this? So I'm gonna play this video to kind of like bring y'all up to speed where we at. So watch this video. Yo, that video. I hope y'all seen that because it kind of breaks it down and it enlightened me to like
That was very enlightening.
very much so. Like, what do he say?
It's not
Morality
about truth, it's
is
about
not about the truth.
convenience.
It's about convenience, and that was
Yeah,
like wow. Like when
yeah.
you really think about it,
Hmm.
that is so true.
Yeah. Because as we will learn as we dive deeper into these the stages of moral development, Kohlberg specifically, one of the levels, I believe it's level 3,
Hmm.
which is focused where your moral reasoning and judgment is driven by self interest and personal gain,
Hmm.
or the expectation of a reward. Like that's where that comes from in that specific case. You know what I mean? Because if
Hmm.
we aren't, well, if male or female, well, just the human being, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
are, you know, a lot of times we like to think in good and bad, or in truth or lies, as he said.
Hmm.
But again, morality is mostly about, it isn't necessarily about the truth or good or bad. It's just about convenience in the situation that you in.
Yeah.
Because like you said,
You take away the food, you
yeah,
take away shelter, you take
right.
away your
You
money.
take away your conveniences.
Yes.
What you thought was illogical and unthinkable when you had those conveniences now becomes logical.
Now it becomes survival mode. Now it becomes like I gotta do this. Like I'll go rob anyone
Yeah.
because I need to eat,
Yeah.
or I go rob because my kids need formula, whatever the case may be, whatever the necessity is.
And as you just said that, it made me realize we have criminalized
Mm.
that behavior.
Yeah.
However, well, we've criminalized in the name of it being wrong. It's not right. Nonetheless, as we just learned though, that person at that let's just say the person who robbed the store so they can feed they baby, again, like that person made a moral decision. It was rooted, it was driven by a higher level of morality
Mm-hmm.
than the first level, which is obedience, so that you can avoid punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be mindful of these things and understand that again, morality is bigger than, like he said, than just is something good or bad, or is it a truth or a lie. No, it's about convenience.
Yeah. Which makes
It
it
really is about
conditional.
convenience.
Yeah, which makes it conditional and relative to whatever the situation is
Hmm.
at hand. Like I'll find out. So they y'all here is talking about these different levels. Let's show them
Let's show
the
them right
different
here.
levels and stuff.
So, where does the jump happen? Where men run ahead.
I'm so glad you asked. It happens right here at the fourth of Kohlberg's stages of moral development. The average adult male lives in the fourth stage, law and order morality, which involves, doing the right thing and keeping law and order, like putting a fence on the border, stuff like that. Whereas the average adult woman stays stuck in the nice girl stage forever, which involves mostly doing and saying the things that make other people clap for you. Like the video you made that I'm responding to right now. So on my chart, Kohlberg's stage 3, the good girl level, is somewhere in between this selfish level and this social oriented level, whereas the next stage, stage 4, law and order morality, is between the social and the rational level. There it is, rational. Like men. We know that men are more rational because they do things like pay off their debt instead of traveling or whatever. So here you go. You right now are somewhere in between the self-interest orientation and the conformity orientation. That looks like this. This may as well be you in a big crowd of people saying wacky stuff to fit in. But at stage 4, which is higher and superior, you get behavior like this: keeping order. So yeah, you sure did say a lot of words in your video. None of them were accurate though. So your video would be an example of this lower level morality, and my response to you would be an example of the better level of morality. Hey, did you know that single fathers raise better families than single mothers? Yeah, that's because they're real grown-ups. Anyway, enjoy clucking into your phone. I'm sure you'll get lots of hearts and likes from all the builders of society.
So that's a little more
Insight
insight
on
on
the
the different
levels.
levels. I implore you to look up um,
Kohlberg's
Kohlberg's
theory of
theory
moral.
of moral
No, the stages of moral
development.
development. Right.
Lawrence Kohlberg to be
Kohlberg.
exact.
Like Goldberg chicken, but
Because
he's Kohlberg.
there's levels to it, and I think knowing these levels will help with things like conflict resolution.
100%.
It will help with making decisions, tough decisions.
Yeah.
It will help you respect other people in positions and understanding where they are and where they're coming from,
Yep.
and what their with their purposes.
Yep.
Like when you're dealing with police officers or any government official, understand
Yep.
they're operating at certain levels, like
Mhm.
right or wrong, or punishment. What's the first one?
So the first level, stage one, is where you're just trying to avoid punishments.
Yeah, avoid punishment.
And then level two was where you're focused on personal gain.
Yeah.
Level three was you are seeking approval.
Mm-hmm.
And level four was you want to maintain law and order.
Yeah.
Level five is basically you want to protect basic human rights and democratic values. And then level six was you are driven by universal principles, which is the highest level, which Mr. Kohlberg theorizes is rare for a human to get to.
So the question is, what happens when the universal principles are challenged by another factor? Like, which side of morality do you stand on at that point?
Well, based on that framework, his position is that, again, the universal principles, like that's like the highest level of morality a human being can reach, which most of us never reach. So to your point, we have, so level five will be what you're mostly talking about, in that, the social contract,
Okay.
as we've agreed as a society that, right is right and wrong is wrong. We've established these things. Now, this is important because this now helps us understand where someone is at on the level. So, for example, if we're having a discussion about relationships and someone's like, well, let's just say a guy is saying things like, well, a woman is supposed to do this for a man.
Okay.
A woman should do this for a man. His language is telling us that his moral reasoning and judgment is operating on that of self-interest.
Okay.
But which is level three, personal gain, because a man will only say what a woman is supposed to be doing or should be doing because he wants something from her. He wants to gain something from her. He has an expectation of a reward, and vice versa. When a woman says things like, "Oh, I had sex with him, so he strung me along. If he didn't want to be in a relationship with me, then he should have told me that up front, and I never would have had sex with him."
Okay.
But that was her operating at a level of moral reasoning and judgment of self-interest, again, personal gain. Like, she wanted a relationship with the man, but instead of her just having a discussion to make sure they was on the same page, operating on the same, no, her moral reasoning and judgment told her, like, all right, well, just give him some sex and automatically it's gonna make him want to be in a relationship with you. But then when she doesn't get the outcome she wanted, which is the relationship in this case, that's why she comes out, backs, and says, like, oh, he took advantage of me. He was supposed to he was supposed to do this, or he shouldn't have did that if this is what he, but her moral reasoning at that point is telling us that, okay, no, your the how you came to your decision to have sex with this man was driven by your expectation of a reward. In your case, the reward was this exclusive, long-term serious relationship with the man. That's what you was in. That was your outcome, and you leveraged your sex to thinking that was going to give it to you. Whereas the man in that case, again, he could be operating at the same level of self-interest, in that, he wants to have sex with her, personal gain, but he didn't set up, and he didn't sit up and say, like, you know what? Again, he didn't have a conversation either. You know what I mean? Because operating at a higher level of morality would have been him saying something along the lines like, "Hey, this is my intention. I would like to have casual sex with you, but are we on the same page there? Are you expecting something more out of this?"
On a side note, why do women always think that the men are the only ones that get anything out of sex?
That's what they've been socialized to believe.
Like they're getting just as much as the fulfillment and pleasure as the man is. So it's kind of like even.
I've always been my stance has always been, sex is a mutual act. That's why it's free. You know what I'm saying? Like it's even exchange.
And we both benefit.
Yeah, even
if I do my job good and you do your job good, we both get up satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
But why I gotta do a good job, please you, and then still there's more requirements that I have to give you because, you gave me the same thing I gave you, which was a good time.
Going back to what is the level of said woman's cognitive development, what is her socialization, and what are the cultural values in which she operates by, that's going to let us know what level of moral reasoning she's going to operate at.
And so if I'm understanding...
Same thing with a man.
If I'm understanding what Kohlberg is saying, it's not that you'll operate at one level all the time.
Exactly.
And it's not that you'll, stay at one level or you only can go to a certain level. Is knowing all the levels. So therefore, as you operate and navigate through life, you'll have a better understanding of people and inner dynamics with people and dealing with altercations, situations, employers, relationships, and all that. It's just having the spectrum, knowing the spectrum of the mental development of a person's mind.
So case in point, before we get to the next clip, let's look at politicians or politics. The average politician's moral reasoning and judgment is rooted in level 1 and level 2. Why? Because all politicians are focused on the personal gain of being in office and the perks that come with that. So in order to maintain office, they will lie to their constituents. They will double speak to their constituents. They will say and do whatever needs to be done to maintain their seat in office.
Okay.
Not necessarily to benefit their constituents, which is what the constituents think that the politicians are there to do.
Right. Right.
See how that works right there? But again, when we watching C-SPAN, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, that's why, on TV, they'll say things like, "Oh, case in point, like right now, I think the last thing, the text message for the war plans."
Oh yeah, the leaked
the text message. So when I'm watching that, I keep hearing people the talking heads, the pundits, as well as the politicians that they have coming on. The rhetoric is all pointing towards they didn't obey, so now they need to have these consequences. They need this punishment. Whereas the other side is like, nah, it's not that big of a deal. But it's again, even the politicians is operating on level 1 because now and it's just to keep it simple, the Republican Party is trying to avoid the consequence of whatever comes with this leak. Whereas the Democratic Party is like, nah, like you guys need to conform to these laws and maintain order. Well, I guess that would be in that regard, the Democrats would be operating on level 4, which is maintaining order, whereas the Republicans will be operating on 1. But again, that's why there's tension. Yeah.
Because they're on different levels. They have different interests. Yep. And so my question is for you, what does one do? And I'm asking our viewers this as well. What does one do when the decision that you want to make actually contradicts the society standard and your moral standard?
I think they call those ethical dilemmas.
I mean, because we got a great example of one, and I want to show them.
Yeah, we can roll it.
Yeah, so because this is where it got real crazy. Like, what do you do? Like, we'll talk more after it.
You're a boy, right?
No, I'm a girl.
Who told you you were a girl?
Mommy.
When did she tell you were a girl?
'Cause I love girls.
Oh, I see. So mommy told you were a girl?
Uh-huh.
The state of California says that I have to pay for the chemical and physical castration of my son as child support. I'm not going to pay that child support. I'm not going to pay anything to hurt my son.
And that means you'll be going to prison?
California is going to send me to prison for that.
So, Jeff, you are going through something. You've been going through something that is probably a father's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Tell me when this started.
Started when my son was about 2 years old. My ex-wife, who's a pediatrician in Capel, Texas, started thinking that he might be a girl and started trying to transition him to a girl. And when I tried to put a stop to that, she filed for divorce and used her relationships with care providers to force me out of my house. And so I moved about a mile up the road from my sons. She filed for divorce formally, and I had 50-50 custody of him. And just after his third birthday, you know, I took the first iPhone video I'd ever taken, and it was him telling me that he thought he was a girl because his mommy tells him a girl. You can go on YouTube and just search for "Mommy Says I'm a Girl." You'll find that video. She was telling him things like, you know, she would put him into timeout and say, "Don't be a boy. The monsters only eat boys," and weird things like this. And she began to then socially transition him, and that led to a titanic battle in the state of Texas that culminated in me getting the procedures outlawed in Texas. And the political establishment in Texas allowing her to come to California so she could still castrate him even though I got it outlawed.
Had your son, you have two sons.
I have two sons, James and Jude. They're twins. They're not identical. James is the one that she's transitioning.
And was there any sign in James that he was open to this or showing signs that he wanted to be anything other than
Well, you know, it's interesting. So he was directly asked that by counselors and stuff. But let me just tell you about one of the fundamental facts of the case that a lot of people find shocking. James never presented as a girl with anyone but his mom. At church, with me, with his friends, he dressed as a boy and called himself James. He only presented as a girl with his mom. And I asked him one time, "Why are you doing that?" And he just flat out told me, he said, "Well, Mommy doesn't love me if I'm not a girl." And that's what he told the counselors too. James is a very talented boxer. I'm a boxer, my dad was a boxer. James is extremely talented. Jude's a wrestler, but James is a very talented boxer. Olympic talent scouts were looking at him. He's that good. And they backed away from him once this all got started. He has all boyfriends. Now, he has some things that you might say are feminine. He likes art. He particularly likes painting and pastels. My son Jude likes sculpture, you know. James is also more extroverted and is willing to play with almost anybody, you know. And he will definitely play with girls. He'll play tag with girls. He'll build things with girls. He has no problem like hanging around with girls. But in terms of having a desire to be a girl, he consistently told me for 10 years that he had no desire to be a girl. He told the court-appointed counselor that he was embarrassed to wear dresses to school. He was getting too old for that and didn't want to wear dresses. And they initiated a CPS investigation against me for forcing him to be a boy, and my 7th CPS investigation.
And do you have contact with your sons now?
No, I'm disallowed all contact with my sons.
You're not allowed to even contact them?
No. I'll tell you how this all sort of built up. So she started transitioning him, you know, really hardcore at 3. I mean, where she presented him to the world with a fake girl's name and everything. This, of course, would have been an important component in the divorce that was going on. So we get to 2017, and we have our divorce trial, and we had a custody evaluator. His name is Blake Mitchell. He practices out of Frisco, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And he asked me, "What is your top issue?" And I said, "My top issue is she's tampering with my son's gender identity." So he charges me $60,000 and does a 1-year investigation of my family, interviewing my children over and over again, everything, and determines that she was not transitioning my son to a girl. He straight up lied to the court and said that I had made a false accusation against her for saying that she was trying to transition my son to a girl. And on that basis, I lost 50-50 custody and got less than standard possession time. So I basically got, 4 to 6 days a month with my sons. So that's how the divorce ended, with the psychologist just outright lying. Now, I've been lucky with these psychologists that lie. I've been able to prove they've lied, so the court actually set aside his report. But that's what he actually told the court in his report. So she then starts really ramping up it again, and now he's wearing makeup to school. He's using the girls' restroom at his elementary school, which was Pinkerton Middle School in Coppell, Texas. I got that school shut down. That school doesn't exist anymore in Coppell. They shut down. Got rid of the principal there. Her name is Miss Mickelson, who's the one that really transitioned my son. And I found out after 2.5 years, they had been transitioning my son secretly behind my back. So I would bring my son to Pinkerton Middle School in Coppell in boys' clothes, because he wears boys' clothes with me, and they would give him a dress and tell him to use the girls' bathroom. And when I found that out, I filed grievances against the public school. And of course, they exonerated themselves, saying that under their nicknames policy, they're allowed to call him whatever he wants. And they're allowed to put him in dresses because he wants to wear it and it doesn't harm him in any way. And so there was just no place to go. It's virtually impossible in Texas to sue a school district because they have sovereign immunity. So this kept ramping up with my ex-wife until finally I look in the medical records with my ex-wife chose a pediatrician, Dr. Jennifer Pape, in Flower Mound, Texas, where I live. And Dr. Pape, in the medical records, it says that her and Miss Georgelis, my ex-wife, were planning on chemically castrating James at age 8 or 9. That's plain black and white in the medical records. So obviously I start to vociferously oppose this. I try to get a new pediatrician. I have to go to court to try to get a new pediatrician. That leads her to file another lawsuit against me for sole control of James.
So they were at what age were they looking to do this?
At age 8 or 9, they were going to chemically castrate him.
That's what we call an ethical dilemma.
That is a huge ethical dilemma. So here you have a man that had a child. Now, correct me if I'm right. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. He has a son
in Texas. That the states is important as well.
Yeah, it's very important.
So he started. Him and his ex-wife had 2 sons.
Yeah, they
in
had
Texas.
2 sons in Texas. Matter of fact, you tell a story.
So him and his wife had 2 sons. Him and his ex-wife, they had 2 sons in the state of Texas. He says when the son was about 2 is when he began to notice that when the youngest son was with the mom, that he would be projecting as a little girl. He obviously addressed this with his ex-wife, and she has some her moral reasoning and judgment said that, oh well, if he wants to be a girl, then he can be a girl. Dad's like, nah, he's not a girl, he's a boy. You know what I mean? So that's how the mom and the dad.
So she's going along with society and the
societal
way things
norms or the trends of now or the wokeness,
And he's saying
happy go lucky
traditional
feel
too.
Exactly.
Okay.
For the most part. So then, long and short of it, they obviously the parents of this little boy now bumping heads, but the mom is still moving forward on this transition. She wants her son to be a daughter.
Right, because another self interest of hers.
Right, personal gain. Right,
personal gain because she had 2 boys and always wanted one boy and one girl.
And based on the context, and like now the dad didn't necessarily say that she wanted, but how he was talking and the context of the conversation was alluding to the fact that the mom wanted a daughter, but the mom didn't want to have another kid. So I had 2 sons, but I'm gonna just turn one of my sons into a daughter. Obviously, mom and dad didn't agree, so they bumping heads, and so then they get a divorce. But again, the mom was still trying to do the transition, but the dad is just like, no. So then the dad goes on an offensive and basically gets the whole concept outlawed in his region or state of Texas. The whole the transitioning of the child, the right for that to happen. He got that outlawed, and he also got the school district, or either the school or the school district in which the kid was going to, because that was the other caveat. As the kid was getting older and going to school, he would send the youngest son to school dressed as a boy, quote unquote. But then when the administration would then give his son clothes to change into, so he can put on like girl clothes, like dresses.
Dresses, not just clothes. They gave him dresses. Can you believe that?
But then the son, as the son started getting older, he was like, "Yeah, I'm outgrowing these dresses. I don't really like that." But then the mom was just like, "Nah, you're gonna be a girl though." But come to find out, the mom had been basically telling the son, like, you know, you she said, the monsters come for boys. So you need to be a girl, act like a girl. So that's why because that's another thing the dad said. The son only projected himself being a quote unquote girl only when he was with the mom.
Right.
But the reason why the little boy did that, because in so many words, the mom told him that she can only love him if he acted like a girl.
And in so many words, right.
So going back to the point now, moral reasoning of the three parties involved: the father, the mother, and the son. Now the son is the son; he's a kid. At best, well, in the video, I think when it was recorded, the dad said the son was 10. So this was from 2 to 10. So this is an 8-year process.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the son's moral reasoning is that on just trying to avoid punishment. He don't know no better. He just want to make mom and dad happy. So that's why
he just want to be.
That's why he's being a girl when he's with mom, but he's being a boy when he's with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because he's just trying to maintain the peace, avoid the punishment. The mom, though, seems to be operating at
level 1, avoid punishment.
Right, level 1. The mom seems to be acting out on level 2 and 3 in that she wants the personal gain that comes from self-interest, but she's also seeking the approval of society that is trending with this wokeness or this, feelings politics.
Right.
And she's trying to be seen as a good mom by others.
Right. Right.
Not her son or the father, but other people outside of the family.
Right. Outside of the core family.
Outside of the core family. So that's why her decisions and judgments is rooted in just her own self-interest, as well as a desire to look good or be perceived as good by everyone around her. Because again, I think he said the mom, she was in like the healthcare field as well.
Okay.
But
wait, it gets better.
It
gets better, y'all.
She had, because she worked in the healthcare field, and she was actually able to campaign for. Because again, this is a problem. Like you said, I think he said he had to pay like $60,000 for some psychologist to evaluate his son, but the psychologist lied on the report. But he was able to prove the psychologist lied because again, the son, because the psychologist was saying that the dad was making it up, that the son didn't want to, that the son wanted to be a boy. That's what the psychologist that he paid $60,000 for. I said he had made the dad had made that up. But again, the mom was working the system because the mom knows the healthcare professionals. So the mom was going and gaining favor with the healthcare professionals to side with her,
right,
against the dad.
Yeah.
So that's why the dad. But again, the dad eventually won in the state of Texas. So that's why the mom moved to California.
Right.
Now the mom's in California. She reopened the case in California. That's why in the beginning he says the state of California wants me to pay for my son to be chemically castrated, and I'm not doing it. So at that point,
it's part of the child support.
Right.
That's key.
Yeah.
In the state of California, the part of the child support was that he has to assist in paying for the castration of his own son and medical and
whatever the medical
chemical thing they do, whatever.
So we got multiple levels of moral reasoning happening here. So which is why the mom and the dad came, because again, the dad is operating on a higher level in that he's operating on he wants to protect his son's basic human rights.
But the father has to make a decision. And I think that's the
he made the decision because he said, I'm not paying.
Well, he said they're gonna put him in jail.
Yeah. But that's my point, because level 5 and level 6, which is the highest levels of moral reasoning, is so level 6, universal principle, where the dad is willing to go to jail as a demonstration of his moral reasoning that no, my son is a son. I have proven that the mom is basically, influencing him to act like a little girl. He ain't trying to be the little girl, but the mom is influencing him to act like a little girl. I have proven this, and I've proven it to the point where she had to change states because the state of Texas wasn't hearing her case no more. They basically dismissed it. So she changed states to go
Right.
keep pushing this line. Because again, the dad lives in the state of Texas.
Right.
He don't live in California.
Right.
But again, the state of California is still levying their laws on this man that lives in Texas. So that's why he's saying that, yeah, the state of California will put me in prison. They're gonna put me in prison because I'm not gonna pay. But my question then would be like, well, is the state of Texas gonna extradite him?
I don't know.
This is like, but it's an ethical dilemma,
That's
moral
like
reasoning.
that's what makes it so confusing. Is like, so what do one decide in that situation? Like, do you obey the law? You know, because
that would be stage one, level one.
Because child support is a legal
It is a
mandate,
legal judgment,
you know,
right,
that you have to adhere to. If not, there's consequences and repercussions, garnishment of wages,
Yep.
confinement, you know, restriction of passports and licenses and things of that nature. Do you go with what society say to do is, you know, pay the child support, or do you stand for what you feel and what you know within yourself is right, and protect the integrity of your son? And
should I be like,
but I just
5 and
thought about
6?
something. Like, even if he go to jail, she's still going to do what she going to do
That's
with the
my
son.
point, right?
So that don't even like.
So
I just thought about that. So going to jail is not even going to stop that from happening.
because based upon how he's talking, the mom has custody of the kids,
Right.
So they're with her.
She's just trying to get him to pay. That's crazy. She's just trying to get him to pay for this shit.
Yeah.
Ain't that some shit? Like, yo, you can't make this shit up. Though it's 2025. Like, you would have never heard a scenario like this maybe
20 years ago,
20 years ago,
10 years ago.
It's like, I can't believe that this is something so substantial and so prevalent in our society. It's crazy.
Now, here's a big takeaway, ladies and gentlemen. These ethical dilemmas are things we all have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But the decision that you get to, regardless of the situation that you in, is going to be based upon your level of moral reasoning.
Right.
So again, level one being you make decisions ultimately to avoid punishment. Level two being you make decisions or judgments for personal gain. Level three is seeking approval or conformity to societal norms or the people around you. Level four was maintaining order. Level five was protecting basic human rights and democratic values, and then level six was operating off of the universal principles that you believe in. So that's where the dad is at right now.
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't care. Because again, level six was operating based upon your belief in your universal principles, regardless, especially if they go against the social norms and laws. So that's where the dad is at right now, saying that I'm not going to do it.
And
in the name of protecting the integrity of my son.
And when you research these levels, you know, there's more explanations. Like each level has two sub levels to each one, which gives you more perspective and more in depth description and explanation of what it entails and what it's actually pertaining to. So just knowing things like this, you know, just helps you be a more rounded person in conversations,
higher quality relationships,
higher quality relationships, where you could. In relationships, it helps a lot with the other person, understanding the person that you with, because it seems like when people are in relationships, partnerships, friendships, business partnerships, you know, a lot of the misunderstanding comes from them not understanding the perspective that the other person is coming from.
Yes.
So once you understand the need of anyone that you're in any encounter with, once you understand what their want is, what they're passionate about, where they're coming from, their point of view, their interest, is easier to deal with whatever the situation is at hand. Because I know you want this.
Yes.
I know you want this. I know you coming from, you know, this perspective. I know. So therefore, all right, let's deal with that and let's see what my interest is, where I'm coming from, and then we'll work from there. We'll start from there, both knowing what my interests are, and I know what yours are. And then that way we can come to a conclusion.
Yep. So
it's deep. It's a lot. I don't know if we did it justice, but y'all go ahead and look it up and do your research.
So final takeaway, ladies and gentlemen, as we said in the beginning, the level that you get to is ultimately based upon your level of cognitive development, your level of socialization, and then the cultural values in which you embrace. That's what's going to determine how high on these levels that you are going to get to. Now, the average man and woman, the average human, I'll just say, ideally they reach level 4, at best level 5. But it's a fluid situation in that, again, how we come to our sense of morality is based upon convenience. It's not based upon good or bad, beautiful, ugly, right or wrong. Now, even though we do say morality is having a sense of right and wrong, but again, every individual human being's sense of right and wrong is influenced by their cultural values,
conveniences,
the conveniences, their cognitive development, and then the socialization of the environment that they were in. So that's why we can't just like that whole phrase "common sense." Like common sense
it's
ain't
not
so common.
My aunt used to say that all the time. I never knew what she meant.
I never knew what she meant until now. You know what I'm saying? Because and that's basically what that whole saying is getting at, in that you just can't live on autopilot. And that's what I'm realizing is what's happening and why people end up bumping heads and crashing out. Because again, people get so comfortable in their own, moral reasonings and judgments that they start thinking that everybody around them shares the same thought or level of moral reasoning. So that's why a lot of times when people, I notice this predominantly in women though, where they'll say things. So case in point, like I saw a clip earlier where it was it was basically a guy who the baby mama had hit him up in the morning at like 3 or 4, literally 2 or 3 in the morning, like, oh, can you give me $20 so I can go buy the baby because the baby needs some diapers. Then he was just like, man, don't call me at this late. I'm with my woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that. Like, unless it's an emergency with the child. Don't, like that's something that can wait till tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, but then I post like, you gotta, respect each other's boundaries. But again, all the comments that went against what I was saying, because I was basically saying his wallet, his choice, and then
his wallet, his choice.
Yeah, his wallet, his choice. And then secondly was I said if they're obviously not together and she knows that he's with another woman and she probably knows, and I would imagine in most baby mamas,
I call bullshit. That bitch wanted some weed. She wanted to get something to drink. Cause you knew
what baby needs is up at 2 o'clock in the morning anyway.
A baby could be up, but that baby ain't had no Pampers at 11, 12, or 1 a.m. How you get to 2 a.m. and then you call somebody say I need a pay when he ain't shit for the past 6-7 hours?
That's actually a good point.
I call bullshit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think
bullshit. She was being the fuck smart. She probably could have been in her feelings and knew that they was together or knew they was doing something, or maybe had a situation the day before and then wanted to be an asshole. Right. Yep.
So that's why, and that's the only reason why I came down where I came down, because I'm just, I felt there was some BS behind it as well. That's why I was just like, nah, like if he ain't saying he ain't gonna do it, but he's just saying he ain't gonna do it right now.
Right, because like you what my guy said, if he going, I put him to bed 10, 11 o'clock, I know he don't got no Pampers. I know in the morning I got to go get some Pampers, and you either going you go to bed with those Pampers on, and then you get up and we gonna if you shit, we take the pamper off, and we just gonna have to
put a towel on,
put something on you till we get to the to get some Pampers, or you keep that pamper on. If it's pee, you might keep the pissy pamper on them until you can get to the store or whatever the case may be. Yeah, that I ain't buying that one.
I remember I saw somebody make a pamper out of Kotex one time.
A Kotex,
like the woman's pad,
a maxi pad.
The maxi pad. Yeah.
Oh,
well, Kotex. Well, the brand is Kotex.
Oh, I
only know this because I be shopping. The brand was Kotex, but yeah, I've seen them. And they basically put the Kotex pad, And then like they took some tissue and just wrapped the Kotex pad up around the baby, and it looked like a pamper, but it was tissue.
They got reusable diapers
yeah. I
that
saw
you
that,
just
yeah.
wash off. But anyway, we getting off topic.
Yeah.
But check out this Lawrence
Go
Kohlberg's
do your own
theory.
homework. Right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting read.
Yep.
So moving on to the next topic.